This is Printed and Pressed. I'm Chris.
And I'm Will.
And I'm Andrew.
And as you can see, we are in the layout for Printed and Pressed. No more of the yellow. I don't know if anybody noticed the change a couple podcasts back, but we're
Your
in
eyes are
different
no longer bleeding.
And mine is I'm assuming an artist rendition of the Library of Alexandria, and then the other two are just.
I'm assuming
Chris, no one knows what it actually looks like.
I hope it looked like this because this is pretty cool.
Oh my god!
I feel like it wasn't in a cave.
No.
It was in the city of Alexandria. I am assuming it didn't look like
I don't
a cave.
care. It's all good. This might even be where they found the Dead Sea Scrolls. No, that's not true either. All right. But just for the record, we are streaming on YouTube, Twitter at Printed and Pressed, and also at
not Twitter anymore.
On Rumble, whatever, X, whatever the heck it's called. It still shows a Twitter symbol on here.
Yeah.
StreamYard, update your layout. And also on Rumble. Rumble. Let's get ready for that to rumble. Anyways, I wish Rumble would fix their live setup so that I wouldn't have to create the stream like right before our stream starts. Kind of annoying. All right. But here we're not here to complain. We're here to talk about The Hobbit, which will lead to
some possibly complain about it. I don't know.
Probably not.
I think so.
It's definitely not my favorite, children book.
What is it? Joseph Rule something Tolkien? I can't remember. Was it Robert Rule Tolkien?
I don't remember.
Something like that.
Sorry, I'm not as big of a fan. I guess as
but one of his middle names is his confirmation name.
For sure.
I don't think that's true, man.
Wait a second. Did I say Joseph? I don't think it's Joseph.
Can you just look it up, Chris?
Let's just look it up. I'm screwing this up majorly.
So you're deviating real hard.
Ronald Reel, or I don't know how to say
Ronald. Is it Ronald? It's Rule though. It's Rule though. I know that. JRR. Is it Joseph though, or is it John?
John.
It is John. John Ronald Rule Tolkien. Oh God. Never used that word before. It's always just J.R.R. Tolkien.
I feel like we should have been prepared a little bit more for this podcast.
It's not prepared and pressed. It's printed and pressed.
I understand, but
all right. Anyways, going into this now, you can tell we're all the biggest Tolkien fans.
It was not his confirmation name, by the way.
It wasn't?
No.
What was
Ronald was a substitute name favored by his mother.
Oh.
And Rule was possibly a friend of Tolkien's grandfather. But there's no apparent reason why he liked it.
So it's not like George R.R. Martin, who literally just threw his confirmation initial in there. Got it.
I think he just added the R to be like Tolkien. I thought that was.
Well, he did, but he probably did it because he had that name.
Chris, do you realize that other people have more than one middle name, right?
Yeah.
But I looked up the interview with George R.R. Martin, and he says, I put that
continue
in there.
on Hobbit. Now I have to look this up. Sorry.
Why are you arguing with this? We've already had this discussion about George R.R. Martin.
Chris, I love how that's the thing you care most about for George R.R. Martin, and you don't really even want to read his books. It's kind of funny.
I don't care. All right, let's move on. Will has actually drank at the pub that C.S. Lewis and Tolkien actually hung out at.
Eagle and the Child. I sat exactly where the Inklings sat, and I pretended I was writing. Their food was terrible, but the beer was good.
Fair enough. And you felt the weight of the weighty authors that had sat there before you. Not really. Probably not. Are you even listening to me, Will?
I wasn't paying attention. I was reading what?
Respond.
He tuned you out like
yes,
you do us all the time.
I said, and you felt the weight of the weighty authors that ate them.
Yeah, no, honestly, it was great going through that pub because they had a bunch of quotes from the different Narnia books and from Tolkien. And then there was a bunch of other Inklings that, of course, I already forgot. But at the time, I was like, wow, there's so many other authors that were friends, and I had no idea. And at the time, I looked up some blurbs, and it's like, they're just as talented, but no one knows about them.
Mm-hmm.
Did you know that Tolkien did a translation of one of the books of the Old Testament for a specific set of translations of the Bible?
There's a lot of burying there.
He actually did do a translation because he's a philologist. That was literally his trade. So he did lots of.
Yeah, I like his Beowulf and I like his King Arthur translations.
I can't remember for the life of me which book he translated. But I know that he did do one for, I think it's called the Jerusalem Bible. I could be wrong. It's one of those, though. It was originally a French translation, and he did the English. All right. So getting started with The Hobbit. What are hobbits, Will?
Hobbits are essentially the stand-in for the British people.
Pretty much.
They are. So they have the same eating schedule. They like to keep themselves, like the British country folk, I guess I should say. And yeah, I really do think that's what the hobbits are supposed to be. It's just a normal British citizen.
I mean, isn't the Shire supposed to be like the Oxford countryside?
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
Having been there and then going back and looking at his description, yes, it is the Oxford countryside.
Fair enough.
Yeah. But in the story, hobbits they actually have no real link to the other races in these books, so you don't like it's really anyone's guess where they came from.
We know
Tolkien
where
himself,
they came from.
yeah,
Yeah, we know
Came
where
from
they
Tom
came from.
Bombadil.
Well, we already discussed this. Tom
he
Bombadil.
does not feature in his book, so
You know what? He should have.
yeah.
This is an oversight of Tolkien. Okay.
In the movies, they have pointed ears. I do not think they're described with pointed ears in the book, but they have really large leathery feet, so they don't need to wear shoes. They have fairy tops.
And they did a good job with the feet in the movies.
Yeah, and they're tiny. They're called halflings because they're only like 3 to 4 feet tall, and they live in holes, but they're not dirty, wet holes. They're hobbit holes.
So I liked the description of the hobbits in this. It was very nice actually reading it, and then like, okay, the movies didn't get too far off of the description for this. But unlike the strangeness of this one, but we'll get to that later. And the hobbits, I don't like the way the hobbits look, but I did like this movie. The old Hobbit, the cartoon Hobbit. There is actually cartoon Lord of the Rings too, but we'll get to that later.
Yeah, I do prefer how the dwarves are depicted in that cartoon version because it matches the book descriptions much better.
Especially Bomber. But
the fatty.
So this is basically a children's adventure book set in Middle Earth.
Yes.
Yeah.
And Bilbo, it's told from his perspective. Pretty much most of the books told from
there's a third person narrator, I would say.
Mm-hmm. But I'm saying like the narrative is driven.
It's
by
following
Bilbo
him. Yeah, it's close third person because you hear his thoughts. But then what I like about this that's different from the Lord of the Rings is that Tolkien breaks the fourth wall.
Yeah, he does
quite frequently.
I like that.
It's something that C.S. Lewis does
for children, man.
Yeah.
Since it's made for children, he breaks the fourth wall.
Yep.
I feel like that is a common theme amongst children's books. At least go ahead.
I was going to say with this, I feel like it's only a children's book because he was still trying to discover what he wanted for Lord of the Rings. Like Middle Earth as a story concept, was it going to be an adult fantasy or was it going to be children's? And with The Hobbit, his first foray into Middle Earth, it just seemed more natural, I think, to make it a children's book.
Yeah, I would be curious how far he was into his world building when he wrote The
I
Hobbit.
believe he already had a 500-page version of the Silmarillion by the time he published this book.
Yeah.
So basically, he built the Bible of Middle Earth before he wrote anything.
I mean, we can go through everything we will be going through everything he talks about in this because he touches on almost every major aspect of Middle Earth when it comes to Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, because you go through like a whole bunch of areas.
This is a giant. I mean, if we had to compare this to one of the Narnia books, this is the Voyage of the Dawn Treader,
or Horse and His Boy,
or the Horse and His Boy, where you see a large swath, or even the Silver Chair, where you get to see large areas that you've never been to before.
Well, if you combine those three books together, you have The Hobbit.
Like we said in our last episode, if you combine the Horse and His Boy, Voyage of the Dawn Treader, and the Silver Chair, you cross about the same number of locations probably for discovery that The Hobbit does.
And this book is not a hard read. I wasn't sure what it was going to be like going into it again, or maybe for the first. I don't know. As I was going through, I was like, this might be my first time actually finishing The Hobbit. I don't actually know.
Really?
I thought I had read it years ago, and maybe I did. But there's a lot of stuff I did not remember.
When I read this book, I have to say it makes me wish that he used a little bit more of the style when it came to the actual Lord of the Rings.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because maybe it's just the subject matter difference, but he gets really, really dense some chapters are too dense, and like Two Towers, the second half.
You hate the Two Towers.
I despise the Two Towers when it's just Frodo and Sam. I just can't. So
Andrew's only going to review the first half of the Two Towers when we do that one.
I might not finish the second half because it's just that much of a slog for me.
He's going to rewatch the movie.
I've never read it individually before, so I guess I don't necessarily agree with the pacing. Okay, we'll talk about those books when we get to those.
When we get to them.
All right, so let's go through
The journey.
like a summary journey of the Hobbit.
Yeah.
Real quick. So let's not delve too deep into the details.
No,
But let's just go through.
it'd take way too long. The book
Right.
is big for a reason.
So basically, it opens up with Gandalf saying hi to Bilbo, and then Bilbo's like, "No adventures for me, friend, but come for tea time tomorrow." And then he shows up with all the dwarves, like 12 dwarves, plus Gandalf and
13.
Bilbo.
13. He's the 14th member.
Oh, you're right. 13 dwarves plus Bilbo plus Gandalf. 15 people total. Sorry.
Yeah.
And basically, they go through and they have like this whole big scene inside of Bilbo's house, and
they blunt the
preparing
swords,
for an
break
adventure.
blunt the knives, bend the forks, whatever that poem
It's
is.
a
And
whatever
whole
Bilbo
music
hates.
sesh. Okay. There's a whole music session. It sounds like a really good party. Dwarves seem fun. Okay.
Yeah, but it's a great, honestly, like reading as a kid, it's just goofy and silly, but reading as an adult, it's actually a really good way of showing how different the hobbits are from the dwarves and how it's going to lead to a lot of contention later in the
There's a
story.
lot of good imagery in that scene.
And then once they leave the Shire, which is, Bilbo wakes up late and they're like, "You got to be there by 11 sharp," is what Gandalf tells him. You got 10 minutes to get there, and he forgets things. And when he gets there, one of the dwarves is already ready to hand him some extra stuff that they've got. So they're pretty good at sharing right out the get-go, which is nice. And then they set off on the adventure. It's like that meme, "I'm off on an adventure."
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about? Remind me, the first place they go through is...
I mean, they're just...
What was their first part of the journey?
The first part of the journey is just that same one that...
They go through that town, right? Wasn't there a town they go through first?
No.
Not really. No, they're leaving the town. Yeah. And they're going towards, basically, for everyone who doesn't know, where Elrond lives.
Yeah, Rivendell.
The same Rivendell.
That's right, yeah. That's what I couldn't think of.
You got the countryside on the way to Rivendell, and they get stopped by some trolls.
By trolls, yeah. One of which is named William.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I much prefer the scene in the books of this than in the movie, because the movie does not... This is supposed to be like to show like Bilbo's worth and how he delays them knowing that they'll turn to stone, where in the movie that doesn't really happen.
Well, Bilbo doesn't delay them, Gandalf does.
Yes. Well, Gandalf cracks a stone and like lets the light in, which is so stupid, because why, like, the trolls would not have been able to get back.
Gandalf actually is the one that does the delaying.
What?
Yeah. It is Gandalf. Dude, you need to reread the book.
Yeah, I don't remember it this way.
Gandalf does the delaying.
Right, and then, but you're talking about the troll scene, so we need to get to the trolls first before we do the troll scene. But it does show Bilbo's worth. I agree. I can't find a map. I thought there was a map in the book. I was going to walk us along the map in the book, but nope, never mind. Anyways,
mine has a map.
So they get to the trolls, and the first thing that happens is essentially they have Bilbo go out as the burglar to go and scope it out. He gets there, they essentially catch him, right? And then they find out about the other dwarves, and then the other dwarves get caught too, and they talk about stewing them up. At least some of the dwarves. I don't remember if all of them get caught. And then, they delay them long enough with the trolls, with just distracting them with various conversations. Then Gandalf brings the light in, which turns the trolls to stone. And then they bury the trolls' gold, which comes in handy later. Way later. And then, so basically, Bilbo's distractions and talking to the trolls proves some worth, and they start to gain a little bit of respect for him. And then when they leave the trolls and Gandalf's with them, they head to, I think it isn't the next part, the goblins.
Well, I just want to point out, you guys Bilbo doesn't distract the trolls. It was Gandalf.
That's right. It was Gandalf. Never mind.
They didn't gain respect for Bilbo yet. They were mad at him because he didn't come warn them. He tried to pick the pocket and got caught himself.
That's right. Yes. He tried to pick the pocket, recognized, and they found him. That's right.
Yes. So and he's the reason they all get caught. So he didn't gain any respect yet.
Yeah, he does try to pickpocket the
I forgot about that. That's right. Yeah. So Gandalf is the one that distracts him at the end. Yeah. And then Gandalf proves his worth. And then eventually Gandalf, when he leaves, is when Bilbo starts proving his worth. But
that's further along now.
But the next thing they do is they wind up in
Rivendell.
That had to be short because I don't remember that being that big of a significant part of the book.
Rivendell, they go there, they find out another clue on the map of Elrond.
Oh,
Because
that's
the
right. Yeah, it's
moonlight
really short.
shows the special runes.
That's right, because he explains it to
And
them. That's
then
right. I forgot about
Elrond
that.
tells them what path to take through the Misty Mountains.
Yeah, forget Elrond. Who cares?
Yeah,
Let's keep
it's a
going.
very brief thing. There's a lot of elf songs that are gibberish, silly stuff, which the elves are not nearly as silly creatures when it comes to the Lord of the Rings later. But you have that. They then go into the Misty
That was
Mountains.
probably the most boring part of the book, was the elf part.
It is, yes.
So then they get it from the elf to the mountains, and that's when they encounter the goblins.
They are trying to seek shelter from the storm in a cave because
And the
there's
goblins
a terrible
find them.
lightning storm, and then goblins ambush them at night,
Yep.
take them prisoner, all except for Gandalf, who then runs to their rescue and attacks the goblins. Basically the same way it happens in the movie without all these random, without all the random like parapets and stuff. Like I still don't understand how they set that up where it's like a giant cavern that's all wood and stuff. It's actual caves and tunnels in this. So
but isn't this also where Bilbo falls down into the pit?
Yeah, so in the Grand Escape, they're trying to get through the tunnels. They get attacked again by some goblins, and they drop Bilbo, who gets knocked out. And he wakes up, finds this ring on the
precious.
Yeah, he finds a ring on the floor of the cave, and is lost. So he picks to go one direction. This is when he finds Gollum. He has to do the riddle game. Does the riddle game. It's not that important. It's really not that important.
What have I got in my pocket?
That's my favorite scene of that book, though.
I know. I love that scene so much. It's
what do I have in my pocket? He wins the riddle game.
Because Gollum thought it was a riddle, and it was absolutely not a freaking riddle.
Yeah.
Imagine feeling.
Gollum's been isolated for a long time.
I know, but still.
So he goes through that. Gollum was going to plan to kill him, but he puts the ring on, hides from him, follows him to the exit. And then he manages to escape past the goblins since he's invisible. And then finds the rest of the party that had abandoned him, so to speak. And
then Gandalf lets a lightning storm out and kills the King Goblin.
That was earlier.
Oh, right. That was earlier.
Yeah. When he gets them free, they kill the King Goblin. But
I read this book very fast, so forgive me if my details are screwed up.
So then this is when the dwarves start to actually think he's impressive. Just a little bit, because he managed
because he was invisible.
And then he snuck up on them.
He gets past the sentries.
Oh yeah, he didn't explain the ring yet.
He's
hiding the ring from them so far.
And then you have them trying to continue on their flight away from the goblin fortress, and they only get so far before they're caught up by wolves on accident, and then they're chased into trees.
Yeah, because the wolves are different. They're actually talking creatures in this. They aren't the wolves.
It's a lot more like Narnia than you think. Right? So they accidentally stumble across this wolf meeting because the wolves are going to work with the goblins to attack the humans in the region. And they're having to hide in the trees. The wolves realize they're there. They keep them in the trees. There's this whole thing where Gandalf tries to set them on fire. It doesn't really do much, and then the goblins show up and light those trees that they're in on fire. And the eagles, everyone loves the eagles. Giant birds in this case that can also talk. They fly in and rescue the entire party because they also hate goblins and wolves. So they bring them to safety at their mountain peak, right? And then there's an agreement to continue with to aid them in their journey further. So you jump from there down to the next location, which is what's his name?
Bjorn.
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 Which There's nothing further about Bjorn later in this universe.
Yeah, there is.
Is there?
Yeah, he comes in.
He shows up and just like he basically ends the war.
No, not in this book. I'm talking.
Yes, he does in this book. He comes.
I'm not talking about this book, Chris. I'm talking.
Oh,
about
you mean in any of the other books?
Later books? Yes.
Oh, okay. I was gonna say,
yeah, he's one of those.
Important in this
you
book.
know, one of the many unexplained creatures that Tolkien likes to throw in.
But he's okay. He was set up in this book to be more important later. The way he's talked about and how his descendants and everything. And
is he in the Silmarillion?
I don't know.
No.
But in this book, he's set up. They talk about his descendants and everything being strong and influential.
Mm-hmm.
Which is why the fact that they never show up later on in Lord of the Rings is really annoying. It's actually the biggest hole in the story that annoys me after reading The Hobbit multiple times. But so they bump into Bjorn, and Gandalf does a whole trickery thing so that they don't overwhelm him.
Trickery thing.
Yeah, because he's like, okay, we're going to show up gradually. So he doesn't realize there's a whole 15 of us. Okay, gradually. Guys? So slowly he does this thing where he's telling Bjorn the story of their journey and everything they've done. Then he has the dwarves show up in groups of 2 every 5 minutes. After it works to interrupt the story, it makes Bjorn want to hear the story even more, and it just captures his attention. And then he goes, verifies everything actually happened while they're sleeping, and then offers them aid on their journey, which helps them get to the next area, which is Mirkwood, a dark, dangerous forest, which nothing good lives in.
Apparently nothing worth eating either.
Nothing worth eating, filled with nasty spiders and whatever else lives in the dark, right? They get to this river, this dark river that just kind of puts you to sleep and erases your memory if you fall in it. Sadly, the Fatso bomber falls in.
Yeah.
Then they have to lug him around once they are deprived of food, right? So no one's happy with him. And that's where they get desperate, right? Because they've been going through this forest for a long time, and they end up breaking the one rule they're supposed to follow, which is stay on the path. And they go and they try to talk to a group of elves who just keep, I guess, loosey with the footballing them when it comes to holding
just
feast.
Like as soon as they show up, lights go out.
Lights go out. They get confused, and now they're just lost from the path altogether. This is where you get the scene where they're attacked by spiders. Bilbo rescues.
That's where he names the sword
dwarves,
Sting.
Right?
Yep.
He names it Sting in this area of the story.
My favorite part about that is he talks about how the sword keeps getting more and more excited the more spiders he kills. It's like the sword keeps getting more excited, huh?
I mean, it does glow, man. It does glow, Chris.
It's just a funny way to describe it. I'm sorry.
But
so blue.
He rescues the dwarves. This is when they really start to respect him.
Yep.
They are eternally grateful to him because this is the first time he actually saved everybody, right? And then they continue to get captured by the wood elves. And Bilbo follows them there. And once they have this, I guess, palace, fortress. How would you guys describe it?
The Elven Castle, bro. There's a king. It's a castle.
It's a little bit both. I would say it's like a fortress, but
fortress.
House.
It's basically
not as nice as the other elves.
It's basically Elven Helm's Deep.
Yeah.
I like how when he's describing, there's like all these different kinds of elves, and then there's the wood elves.
Yeah.
It's like one of the things you can't take the time to explain to everybody.
So they have the dwarves prisoner, and they're trying to figure out what they're doing. They don't like dwarves.
And they don't want to give away the gold. They don't want to tell them about the gold.
Yeah, they don't want to tell them about the gold. So Bilbo has to find a way to rescue them. And the way
he puts on the one ring to save them all.
Yeah. He's getting used to being invisible at this point.
Yep.
He's constantly wearing this ring. So he's he finds a way to rescue them by putting them in barrels that are going to be sent down to the lake town.
Right.
So the entire next stage of that journey is them in these barrels going down to the lake town, and then that's where
they fight goblins and stuff.
Oh, you're saying the movie?
In the movie,
You
I'm
had me
sorry.
so confused for a second. I'm like,
Yeah.
what? No, yeah, that did not happen in the book.
No.
Everyone, we can critique the movie once we're through the summary. Then at Lake Town, Bilbo gets them all out of the barrels. They're
They meet
welcomed.
Bard the boatman.
Not yet, no.
What?
They didn't meet Bard yet.
I don't know what just happened to my mic. Can you guys hear me now?
Yeah, we can hear you. They didn't meet him yet. They go. They go to the city, the town. It's more of a town. They go there. They're welcomed as heroes because Thrain is.
Oh, okay, fair enough. I understand. I was skipping this part. Okay, go on.
Yeah, so they're there. They have all of this glorious welcome. They're given aid because everyone's like, oh, they're going to go reopen the mountain and send gold to us for free. And that's how.
At least they think that's what's going to happen.
Yeah, and that's how Bilbo and the band of dwarves make it to the mountain, get to this special little ledge with the secret door, and they find out how to open it. Bilbo goes.
Well, Bilbo once again outsmarts the dwarves at this part of the journey, and like, hey guys, look, it's the keys here, and all the dwarves are like away, and they barely make it back in time to turn the key.
Yeah, they steal from a dragon.
Yeah, well, Bilbo does. None of the dwarves
Bilbo does. Annoys the dragon greatly.
Yes.
Which then he realizes, because he's a barrel rider, that he must be from Dale.
The lake town. Yeah.
We haven't gotten to that point yet. He flies around, sees the ponies. He already thinks they're from Lake Town. Yeah, and then he smells the dwarves, and he through the name game or whatever.
Because the second time Bilbo goes there,
they have a discussion.
Knows he's there, and they have a whole discussion of riddles, and he talks about how the bewitchment of the dragon, but
because the dragon can kind of convince you to give more information away than what you should.
Well, you're under a spell of sorts by a dragon, right?
Apparently, yeah.
If it wasn't for the fact that hobbits are difficult to bewitch, generally speaking, Bilbo probably would have just walked into Smaug. So that's part of the narration there in that part of the story.
Clearly, Tolkien liked his hobbits to make them.
He loves hobbits, yeah. And then Smaug decides to, when he can't kill those guys, he decides to go attack the lake town.
Yep.
But prior to this, Bilbo had found out that there is a weak spot in his armor on his belly.
Yeah, by playing up his ego.
Yes. And in that moment, too, a thrush overhears them.
Yeah, well, they're magical thrushes that were part of the kingdom when it was still Erebor.
Yeah, they were
so
part
descendants of those magical thrushes. Yeah,
yeah, which could talk to the people of Dale. And it just so happens that Bard is a descendant of the people from Dale.
Right.
And that's who the thrush goes and talks to and tells about that. So while the dragon is attacking Lake Town, Bard manages to hit him in the weak spot with an arrow, killing him, right? So that's how Smaug dies. The dwarves never know any of this.
Yep.
So they're just wandering around the mountains scared. And then eventually they're told that Smaug is dead by a raven, which could also talk to the dwarves. And then it's just a mad dash. Everyone wants the gold, right? Yep. You got the elves coming. You got the people of Lake Town. You got the dwarves sending for reinforcements. And there's also the orcs, the goblins coming. So the people from Lake Town, they want money as restitution, right?
Yep.
The elves are just greedy.
Yep. Little bastards. I mean, and the dwarves are, retaking their homeland, but they're also greedy.
The dwarves are more greedy than their own good, right?
They're also, at least, Thorin is suffering from dragon sickness.
Yeah. So, and then there's the Oh, what's it called? The Heart of the Mountain.
It's not as big of a deal in the
It's a
book,
big
though.
deal in this. It's still a
Talking
big
about
deal.
the Arkenstone.
Yeah, the
Mhm.
Arkansas. It's a
Okay,
big
so
deal.
yes, because Bilbo takes it as his
Yeah, he steals
part.
it technically.
They make a much bigger deal of that in the movies, though, so it's not
Well,
that
I
big.
mean, it's a big deal for like 2 scenes. It's the only reason that there's any compromise with
Yes.
potential.
Yeah, because as soon as he
compromise.
finds out Bilbo did that, and Bilbo's like, "That's my 1/14 share,"
He disowns
he immediately
him
disowns
immediately.
him
Yeah,
altogether. Like, "Screw you, Bilbo. You're not my friend
yeah,
anymore." After all they've been through, right?
right. Well,
And
because
the best part is he
dragon
just
sickness,
completely
man.
dismisses the role of the men in killing Smaug. It's like, oh my
Mhm.
goodness.
Yeah, that's the wild part is he's not even willing to like. Okay, yeah, you guys just had your town destroyed, but you
Well, it's
also
the dragon
killed
sickness.
Smaug.
He's infected.
Yeah, terrible greed is
Mhm.
dragon sickness, and then in that whole time, the reinforcements show up, but at the same exact time, the goblins show up.
Not the
So,
exact same member. It was very
no,
close
like
together
immediately
though.
after they
And the
barely
wolves.
started
And
to
the wolves.
fight each other.
And that's
And the bats.
and that's what finally knocks Thorin out of his dragon sickness to fight with his, his family and his
Yeah,
soon to be future friends before he
right.
dies.
Before he's dead. Yes.
So they all fight and stave off they almost lose, and then the Eagles show
Eagles
up.
come. They drop
Yeah.
Bjorn. Bjorn kicks
Yeah,
an
And then at
ass.
the end of the battle, Bjorn shows up and just ravages everybody. Just like
right.
wrecks those
Off
goblins.
camera though, man. It
Yeah.
happens off camera. We don't even get to read about it except as like he showed up and just
Well, because as
started
soon as Bjorn
destroying.
shows up, Bilbo gets knocked
Mhm.
out.
Yeah.
So that's it. Well, I mean, can you imagine writing a kid's book and explaining what the bear did to the goblins
Oh
like
yeah,
that?
no.
You can't
Be
do
pretty
that.
difficult. I'll agree to that. And then at the end, so
Bilbo wakes
Bilbo
up
got knocked
just in
out.
time to say bye to his friend Thorin,
Yep, he gets
who
to say
forgives
goodbye.
him, says he's a good person.
He's sent home with the armor, his sword, and like 2 chests of gold.
Which I always thought from the get-go, like the only way Bilbo could have his 1/14 share of this gold is if he, stays there.
Yeah.
What is he going to transport that much gold back to the Shire? It'd take him like 10 trips.
I
And he
mean,
almost died on the first one.
you'd be rich enough to do it.
Well,
That's all
doesn't
I'm
he dig up
saying.
the troll gold?
Yeah,
He does do that, yeah.
Yeah.
But that's more to
Yeah.
buy back his own possessions.
So I mean, after that, he basically takes a short trip back with Bjorn and Gandalf. Then they make it back to Rivendell and stay there for a while, and then go back to the Shire where he finds out that his idiot relatives are trying to sell his stuff.
The Sackville Bagginses.
Yeah,
Who he
they all
blames
said he
for
was
everything.
dead.
Yeah.
And then his reputation
The
never
late
recovers.
Bilbo Baggins. Well, yeah, because reputations are based on never doing anything.
Yeah,
Yep.
because he's too much took. He's not enough Beggins.
Mm-hmm.
My favorite part about this was just now. I had thought all along that Bilbo is based on C.S. Lewis, but no, Treebeard is apparently based on C.S. Lewis.
Really?
Yeah. I did not know that until just now when I looked it up. I was trying to figure that out.
That's funny.
Anyways, he's like, because he's talks slow and he's wise.
But yeah,
That's C.S. Lewis.
that's basically the entire summary of the book right there.
Mm-hmm.
And I think my biggest takeaway was that's a lot of scenes, right? That's a lot of places to explore in one book.
Oh, we missed the mountain giants, whatever they're called, rock giants.
Oh, that was the reason they had to take shelter earlier.
Yes.
They were with a thunderstorm.
That was why.
Yeah, sorry. It's just you're talking about so many things happening, and that was.
We also forgot to mention that Gandalf left them when they went into
after
Mirkwood.
Bjorn.
Yeah, when they were going into Mirkwood, he left them because he had to go investigate a necromancer.
Yep.
Who's important in a different book, and I like how he mentions that like 6 times.
Yeah. But this
is a story for another time.
That's like what 5 different locations that he explores. You got
the Shire, the First Mountains, Bjorn's place,
Rivendell, Rivendell, Shire, Mountains.
I don't even acknowledge Rivendell because that was the most boring part of the book.
Well, yeah, I mean, there's the Eagles.
Yeah, but you also have to remember, Chris, is that he's the one who created elves that were beautiful, 6 foot tall. Creatures. They're not little.
He wasn't exactly convinced.
Not the clockwork elves.
He wasn't exactly convinced of that vision for this book yet.
Fair enough.
Because he makes them silly.
Yeah.
really silly. Not the
Yeah,
real
but just the
stuff.
fact that they're not little impish creatures is brand new.
True.
They're not little Dobbies from Harry Potter.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
like I mean, someone who read a lot of fantasy, but then going into this book would have been blown away probably because it's just wow, this is
Right.
totally different.
And
Yeah, because the elves being tall, 6 foot, beautiful creatures was never a thing before this. Not really.
the thing I was going to say too is with how many locations that he does have in this book, it's kind of amazing how well he delves into each of them. So they all feel like a full sequence. It doesn't feel like you're just briefly touching on it. It's like, oh, I want to explore this more. It feels fully explored when he actually brings you.
Well, my favorite part is your quick little trip into Narnia with the Bjorn area. It's like, oh, look, there's Narnia inside of Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, no, like that's literally the vibe of it. But because that's my biggest complaint in something like Voyage of the Dawn Treader with C.S. Lewis.
You don't feel like anything is explored enough.
Yeah. But in this book by Tolkien, he literally explores everywhere as much as I could have expected it to.
What was your favorite area in the book?
Oh, that's tough.
Because I actually liked the Bjorn Mirkwood part the best, personally.
I think that is the richest part of the story is Bjorn and then Mirkwood.
And then I think as far as themes go, though, I liked how much greed drove the end of the plot. Because you go through this fantastical adventure just to find out that this hero who's been following along this whole way is easily tempted by, well, dragon sickness or greed. Really,
Right.
At the end of the day, greed.
I mean,
allows that to influence all of his decisions until he finally wakes up out of it.
Yeah, I mean, I thought in this book, I don't know if you guys kind of got this vibe at all, but Gandalf is kind of godlike for Bilbo. He kind of is.
Or a prophet.
Well, let me explain. So he gives Bilbo a challenge or / adventure, and it is at the time of his choosing, not Bilbo's. And Bilbo doesn't have a choice, right?
Not really, yeah.
And so he can't run from this adventure. And him not embracing it just makes it worse for him early on. Like he forgets, he doesn't get to bring his comfort items with him because he tried to fight Gandalf, who's kind of like his god, right? He's trying to fight him. It's like,
or at the very least, a guardian angel.
Yeah.
So, okay, I'm going to back this up. So just in Tolkien's mythology, Gandalf is a lesser god.
Right.
But if you want to relate it to Christian mythology, because I know Chris is getting uncomfortable, he is an angel.
Right. That's what I'm saying. He'd be like a...
He's not necessarily a guardian angel as we would expect it, but he is an angel. Because I mean, Saruman is as well.
Yeah, but he's like a fallen angel. No, not Saruman. I'm sorry. I was thinking of the other one. Sorry, I was thinking of Sauron.
Yeah, it's difficult because he very much uses the more of the way that like pagans would look at this, whereas there's not lesser angelic beings, it's just lesser gods, and then there's the supreme god. So that's how he delineates.
Is Morgoth the bad one or the good one? I can't remember.
Morgoth is the he's the first bad guy.
Okay, that's what I thought. Okay.
Who corrupts Sauron.
And that's how you end up with the fallen, like what would be a fallen deity, I guess, in this world.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, but if you read the Silmarillion, which I recommend everyone go back.
I did. It was like over a decade ago.
It is fascinating. So the way that he explains his mythology, honestly, you can tell he is wrestling with creation and his Christian beliefs, because it's very much like, okay, the world gets sung into existence. All of these angelic beings or gods are singing together, and then there's one discordant note, and that ends up being Morgoth. But at the end, Morgoth thinks he's creating something of his own, but
he's just corrupting things.
No, he's not even doing that. So I thought he did. Forgetting what the heck the guy's name is now. The actual god.
Is it A? It's like an A name.
You're close to it. Yeah, I'm blanking on it.
Asgoth?
No. Anyway, that guy. There's two names for him, so I'm getting them mixed up in my head. So the head god basically sets them down. It's like, hey, you think you created this? I'm actually going to weave this into a grander orchestra, essentially. And then what happens from him singing that discord?
Aro Ilúvatar?
Yes, Ilúvatar. how Morgoth, sings his discordant note. That's what we're seeing.
And you're talking about the Aenir. The Aenir were the holy ones, right? The Aenir, divine spirits. Yeah, it's Ainur.
I don't know that word.
Okay.
There's a Valinor and there's an Ainu, but I don't know that one. Anyway, it's just fascinating how he does this. Where this, you have this what we would consider as evil being, but really it's just part of this grander picture that's going to create something better. Anyway, sorry to sidetrack.
No,
I don't think we could ever
valuable.
I don't think we could ever truly cover the Silmarillion on this podcast. I think that would be a multi-part series. It'd be like a multi-part series. That'd be like by chapter going through it, because that would be that.
Yeah, but you remember how in Narnia, this is linking back to our other books, Aslan sings Narnia into existence.
Yeah,
it's very similar to that, but on a more grand scale.
Yeah, from reading the Silmarillion years ago, it was a very grand scale that he goes by, and he's very detailed about how he does it.
Well, it's basically his world's Bible is what it is.
Yeah, it literally is.
Right. Yeah, but speaking of that, of morality, so something that is not as you don't really notice it when you read this book, but if you read the whole series, is why does the ring not corrupt Bilbo? Do you know why?
You mean not originally?
Yeah, I mean he really never gets corrupted by it. He has it for a really freaking long time.
It's about your nature.
Yeah, so
it tries to corrupt your very nature.
Yes. So obviously
why you end up with,
but Gollum was also a hobbit.
Yeah, right. Which is why the comfort thing that I guess you would say Gollum is what Frodo would have become, for example, or Bilbo would have become, because their lack of grandioseness, their desire for like the simple comforts, is something that can lead to that hide yourself away isolationism that Gollum chooses, right? To be, he can't risk anyone taking his ring, so he's gonna seclude himself in the depths of a mountain.
Yes, and also why? Okay, so I'm leading you on here a little bit. Yeah. So Bilbo, when he first gets the ring, he shows mercy to Gollum. He doesn't kill him.
Yeah.
He has a whole scene where he contemplates killing him, and he gives mercy. So that's the way he first takes on the ring is very important. Gollum killed Deagle to get the ring, so it immediately corrupts him. And the same thing is that Bilbo is able to willingly give it up, whereas it was taken from Gollum. So that's why he can never actually let it go. And it's just important. It's the way you receive the ring is, how it ends up corrupting you in the end as well. The same thing you see with.
But that all comes to your nature, right?
Yeah, it does come to your nature. So you can say like which one, like the egg or the chicken. But
because the way you get the ring is totally tied to how you behave, generally speaking.
Yeah, it is something that was written in one of his letters, though. It's like this was a theme that I was putting in there, and no one really got up on. But
well, yeah, I guess there is another point to be said. There is that the reasons he uses the ring too are different than other people, right? So like he uses the ring to help other people specifically. Frodo uses it to hide. So it's kind of a difference.
I mean, same thing. He's using it to
kind
hide
of, because Frodo never uses it in the same way.
And also, didn't they tell Frodo never to put it on?
Yeah,
they did.
It's a much different environment at the time.
Yeah,
that's true too, because the riders will find him.
Yeah. Well, at the time, Sauron now has a physical form. He can't leave his fortress, but he's actively looking for the ring, and he has the riders out. So him putting on the ring is not the same as when Bilbo had it. But again, something you don't see in the movies is that there's a 30-year gap between when Bilbo first takes it, or takes off the last time, and then Frodo gets it. Right.
Oh, there's a 30-year gap between when he takes it
off.
It's when Gandalf goes and figures out that is the One Ring. So
there's that one little throwaway scene they added into the extended editions that kind of explains some of that.
Yeah,
they do show him going to look for it, but they do not.
They don't tell you how long it is.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot too with how it's great that Tolkien likes to pick unlikely champions. I think that goes a long way in the as like a moral lesson too, because it's like you might be an unlikely champion, but you have a ton of potential if you can overcome your self-doubt.
Yep.
And that's basically what Gandalf is trying to tell everybody about Bilbo the entire time, is you'll come to be very happy with this choice as your burglar as long as things happen how he sees them.
Right.
Mhm.
Not to mention the fact that when he selects his unlikely champions, I mean, it isn't that foreign to what he would have been, his normal David and Goliath type stuff that he was reading at the time. So that doesn't surprise me.
I mean, most champions too have unlikely beginnings. When you look at just human history, it's not very uncommon.
Well, somebody who grows up in prosperity is generally not somebody that becomes a champion. I mean, it happens, but they're less likely than somebody who survives a whole bunch of ordeals to become the champion.
Yeah. I mean, for this story, though, the whole point of having to pick Bilbo to go on this journey is that they live in quiet times.
Yeah.
And that has resulted in very few mighty warriors or heroes.
Right.
So that's why he's resorting to burglary. But yeah. I think the description of dragons was pretty good for this book. It's like they are just pure destructive greed and no beauty.
Mm-hmm.
That's how
I like how the
described,
amassing
unlike in
of
other
gold
books.
attracts dragons.
What?
I like how the amassing of gold is what attracts the dragon
and drives them too, because they go get more gold wherever they can.
He talks
Or
about
at the
how
very least, the fire drakes of the north. I don't know if all of the dragons in his mythos is driven by the same desire.
They're the only dragons we ever see, though.
Fair enough, unless you obviously the Silmarillion has all of them, but
it doesn't count because they're not written into stories.
And I mean, you have the fell beasts in the Lord of the Rings.
Yeah,
they're I think with the ring too. I like.
Do those count as dragons though? The fell beasts.
I don't think he ever describes what they are in the books. They're dragon-like in the movies, but I think what they really are corrupted eagles. So who knows?
Fair enough.
Right. There's
Speaking of which, I thought it was interesting all the different birds he has in his books.
Tons of
birds.
birds.
The eagles, and then the ravens are the ones that are associated
but
with.
Don't you love how they all
dwarves.
talk as if it's Narnia?
Yeah, they talk, but only certain people can understand them.
Yeah.
Well, this book was published before Narnia, so I guess isn't it interesting how Narnia is like the Hobbit?
It's a joke, but yeah. No, what did you guys think of the finding of the ring, though? Because I thought
that's one of my favorite scenes in all.
I thought there was a lot of
Middle-earth.
symbolism in that.
That is one of my favorite scenes in all.
Please explain the symbolism that you saw.
I saw because he's at his absolute darkest moment. He's alone, isolated in the depths of a freaking mountain, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he reaches out and he finds this gem of an item, this absolute life-changing, I guess, device that makes it like that. Just he brings forward to do so much with. It's.
Mm-hmm.
If you take that ring, it could be symbolic for a lot of things, because the circumstances of him finding it at that unexpected worst case scenario that he found himself in, I think is what the powerful message is.
I think the other part of that scene is it shows that, well, you don't really see it, but the ring has like a will of its own and it wants to escape Gollum. So it gets lost, and Bilbo finds it. Bilbo is its key way out.
That's not explained until later when you think about it, but it's kind of you never see that done to Bilbo himself.
Because Bilbo freely gives it. Well, freely.
Well, I mean,
I use that term loosely when you look at the movie Bilbo and how he gives it up.
No, but I'm saying the ring is never really trying to escape Bilbo the entire story, and he's using it everywhere where he could easily have, like, the ring should have betrayed him like around the time of Smaug.
Why?
If the ring was trying to go to the Dark Lord or something, giving itself.
Yeah, but how is Smaug going to get the ring? If it goes to Smaug, then the ring ain't leaving.
No, but I'm saying like betraying Bilbo somewhere, because there was the whole point, if I remember it correctly, isn't a large reason for this journey to make it where Smaug can't ally with Sauron
Yes,
later?
that is Gandalf's larger plan.
Yeah.
Oh,
so
I didn't know that.
yeah, when you have that context, it would have made sense for the ring to try to lose itself there.
But then would Smaug be willing to give up the ring? That's another question.
Probably not, but who else is going to take the ring? It's now isolated in a specific location, easy to take but for an army of orcs.
Yeah, I mean, it was the closest when it was in Mirkwood because that's the necromancer was there. But at the same time, when Tolkien wrote this book, that wasn't the Ring of Power. So, I guess
that's my point. That's what I'm trying to get at. It wasn't really that aspect of it having its mind of its own is not really super present in this book.
But thankfully, it was easy to write it in there, like with all the loose context.
It was an easy backfit.
Retrofitting the Ring of Power was not hard.
Yeah.
I guess it just kind of shows you how powerful Tolkien's ideas and writing are.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he didn't write a bajillion books like C.S. Lewis did, but he really built this world.
I mean, he did the world building much better. But and when I say that, I guess when Bilbo's darkest part of the journey is there at the bottom of that mountain, in that mountain's core, right? When he finds the ring. But for their party, the darkest moment is clearly Mirkwood.
Yeah.
And I thought it was very symbolic when Gandalf has to leave them going into that darkest moment.
Mm-hmm.
And this is where I get the vibe that Gandalf is kind of written as a godlike character, because it's that feeling where at your darkest moment, you might feel abandoned by God because you question why you're even experiencing that moment, right? And that's the symbolism I thought I was seeing in that when I read it.
Well, not to mention that you don't, without knowing what the necromancer is, you find out later Gandalf was dealing with the necromancer.
Yeah, but I'm saying, like, when you look at,
imagine if the necromancer had come into Mirkwood, like the dwarves and Bilbo were done. They were done for.
Yeah, I mean, he was in Mirkwood, but if it wasn't occupied, is what you're saying.
Yeah.
It's one of those things though where when you pair the symbolism of when Gandalf leaves there and then the symbolisms of how Bilbo's journey starts, I do feel like Gandalf is written a little bit more like a godlike figure.
Okay. Yeah.
That's what I was trying to say earlier. I know Chris gets uncomfortable with that, but it doesn't have to be pagan, Chris.
I'm not uncomfortable with Gandalf being that style of character. Okay. I don't necessarily agree with you though.
Okay, I mean,
I think Gandalf is more like, okay. So here's how I see
Gandalf. Okay, you can say he's a guardian angel doing God's work.
Let me talk without interruption.
No,
I see him more as like Raphael in the Bible, where he's like the guy that's on the journey with him, and kind of guides them all the way through. I forget which person it is, but is it Tobit? No, it's not Tobit. Is it Tobit? It might be. Anyways, it's the part where it takes the son on a journey to go meet the wife and guides him through everything he has to do to take his wife home. I know it's like a different kind of story, but that's what it reminds me of.
Okay, I guess it's Gandalf is a representative of God.
I would agree with that.
That's what I'm trying to
Bible,
say.
Man.
Is it Raphael? I can't remember. One of the angels guides, and this might be a deuterocanonical, so pardon my Catholic.
I mean, you named an angel, so you're already not canonical. Yeah, they're not named.
I'm pretty sure. I'm Googling this because you're making me mad.
All right.
I'm gonna Google this. You made me mad. Well, I see it when I looked at Raphael. He's an Enoch, which is probably where he got that from.
I think it's Tobit. And Tobit, I believe, is Raphael is in Tobit. That's deuterocanonical, so that's why you guys don't know it. It's a Catholic specific book. It's not one of your Protestant books.
Chris, when you wanted to describe it as a guardian angel concept, I wasn't against it. I'm just saying, end of the day.
It reminded me of Tobit, but if you haven't read Tobit, well then
no. But I'm just saying, end of the day, if it's an angel or God specifically, does it really matter? It's still doing God's will.
No, I agree with you on that.
Yeah.
I'm just saying that it reminded me of that specific story in the Bible was when the angels guiding the guy all the way through the journey,
Right. And
start to
then
finish, and then like they disappear, come back, different things. Gandalf kind of reminds me of that, which fits the narrative quite a bit because
right.
Gandalf is a physical presence.
Mm-hmm. When we are at the end, when the dwarves are going around the mountain and stuff after Smaug is dead, but they don't know it.
Yeah, they're like still like he might come back.
We got that useful tidbit of information where they go to that watchtower,
Right.
And they were just talking about how they put a lot of effort in to make sure the guards were comfortable, probably too comfortable, which is why they fell to Smaug to begin with.
Right.
Which I can't tell. Are dwarves able to actually fight off a dragon when it decides it wants their mountain? I don't. That's.
I guess it probably depends on how.
I mean, they do kill some of them. They kill a bunch of the fire drakes in the north before Smaug comes.
Okay.
The dwarves have been at war with dragons for a long time at this point and have been dwindled drastically.
The dwarves have been dwindled.
Both of them have. But yes, they have killed some.
I do like how they
maybe they could
immediately talk about how elves don't like dwarves, but then he never explains it in the Hobbit why.
No, they explain it why. They explained why.
Not really.
The wood elves? Yeah, there's
the wood elves. Yes, they talk about that one.
Mm-hmm.
But the rest of the elves have a dislike for dwarves.
They dislike the way they greed after gold and stuff.
Yeah, I mean that's like a generic, but yeah. Okay, fair enough.
What did you guys think of when?
It just reminded me of like a little bit of nationalism between the different races in Middle Earth.
Oh, there's tons of that.
Yeah.
What did you guys think of the part after Bard kills the dragon though, and they're calling for King Bard?
King Bard. It reminded me of King Bob.
You remember that scene though, Chris?
I do. Yeah, I thought that was totally fine. You know, the people's hero, the master sucks. He's good at business.
But
terrible.
Do you remember what they said? They want King Bard. We have had enough of the old men and money counters.
Well, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Which is funny. It's just funny because it's like boomers.
I wondered where you're going with that.
I just thought it was funny. So
the master of the thing immediately spins that around. Like, no, we need to remember who released Smaug and da 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 da. He's like trying to change the narrative and control it. It's like what you talked about in what book narrative? Was it? No. What was the book that we just recently read where narrative drives this? Like the first narrative.
Silver chair.
Important. Yes. Yes.
Or was
it the last battle that we had to change the narrative?
Well, both of them are really strong on that.
That's right, because the ape got the first word in, and this really drives home. Like, you know, if you can control a narrative, you can control anything.
Yeah, because most of the time,
that master was very good at flipping the narrative on its edge there.
Let's put it this way: if your focus is on controlling the narrative, right? That means you are in control of your own emotions. You're thinking very logically, and you are channeling the direction of everyone else's emotions.
Right.
Because most of the most average person, in whatever the story is usually thinking with emotions more than just logically thinking out everything. So you controlling the narrative first is going to have a lot more weight and manipulative power.
I would agree with that.
Yeah.
But I mean, where do you guys rank this book when you compare it to the other Lord of the Rings books too?
I can't make that determination, so I'm going to sit that one out.
Have you not read the other Lord of the Rings
We've talked about this. I've read The Fellowship and half of The Two Towers.
Oh, that's right.
Okay, so I guess we're going to have to rank this after the series.
Yes. But
it's hard to put this one because it's written
so differently. You and I have read them all, both, Will. So
yeah, I love this book, so I might put this.
That's the problem. I think I love this book too much.
Yeah,
this book is just stronger. This book works with or without Lord of the Rings. Period.
And that's why I think it's stronger. That's why I want to say it's one of his best books.
Also,
I don't-
again,
I-
and remember, Lord of the Rings was one book.
Originally,
Yes,
Yeah.
which is why
how
the
on earth
pacing is
could you
weird.
read? How on earth could
You
you read that as
couldn't.
one book?
That's why Two Towers sucks, because he has to have a part A and a part B.
I don't think that ever works well. He could have done better alternating chapters.
He should have alternated. Because the journeys happen like that.
Fine. I have it all as one book. Actually, hold on. I'll get it for you.
No. It is one book.
Yeah.
It's
It's
well,
the way
Lord
the
of the
parts
Rings is
break
one
out,
book.
though. It sucks.
Are you talking about the full trilogy in one book? Because I know that
No, it's not
exists.
split. It's just one book. So,
Okay.
Which
It's
version is that?
I have no idea. I picked it up at.
It has to be massive.
It's. Gosh, I hate the background. Gosh, this book is so beautiful. I really wanted to. I'll turn it off.
It's trying to your screen, your background thing. You're blurring.
Yeah. Okay. Look how beautiful this book is.
That is really beautiful. Is
How
that just the
thick is
Two
that?
Towers?
No,
No,
that's
it's
the whole thing, man.
Yeah, no, I've got a copy like that actually, not the red
Comes
one.
in this cool like thing. It's the second edition.
Okay.
Oh, I almost bid on one of
I
those. It
gotta
was
say,
going up to
though-
about $120.
I have to say that
Reminds me a little bit of the Red Letter Bible because some of the letters are in red.
I gotta say though that this copy of The Hobbit is beautiful.
That's the
Yes.
same type of copy that Will has there,
Yeah.
or is that the Easton Press?
No, this is a very similar style.
It came in the box like Will's did.
Yeah, it comes in a box.
Okay, no, that is the same. Yeah, it's the same publisher that Will's is.
Yeah,
I
I mean-
almost bought a set with both of those in it.
This thing is so nice.
Let's see
I
what the
can't.
publisher actually is.
Yeah, there's an eBay set that's going to be done tonight. It's got about $150 for both of the ones
Oh,
you guys
really?
are holding right now.
I couldn't buy the really big one for the Lord of the Rings. I just don't want it like that. But that's just me.
I've been considering picking up the Easton Press editions, but I
This is
don't
just my
feel like
looking
spending that
version.
money.
I have a reading copy as well.
Oh, that's fair. That's fair then. I couldn't pass up that version of The Hobbit though when I saw it because it
It's
was just
beautiful.
so pretty. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that green is.
I think
with
they
the
have it
gold.
at Barnes and Noble, and I've looked at it a couple times, and I really do want to get it.
The Hobbit.
The Hobbit one is cheap too. I
Mhm.
got it on
The Barnes and
Amazon.
Noble near me has sold out of all the nice looking Lord of the Rings
Well,
stuff. It's
I
all
got it
paperbacks
on-
and garbage card covers.
Hey, Will, I got it
Yeah.
on Amazon for like less than $20.
There is
Okay,
like a
I need to get it.
leatherette fake leather Lord of the Rings, but it does like I'm like if you're gonna take the time to make a fake leather Lord of the Rings book, why not put a ribbon in there somewhere? Nope, no ribbons. That's
I'm
just
sorry,
dumb.
this copy doesn't have a ribbon that I have.
No, I understand that, and
Yeah,
that's
mine doesn't
fine.
either.
I just don't know why you take the time to make a more
Chris
expensive
is upset that there
leatherette-looking
isn't
one
Bible verses just
with
in
no
it.
ribbon. With no ribbon. Like, I like ribbons in my books. Makes it easier to keep track where I'm at.
You know they have bookmarks now, right? They invented those a while back.
Nobody likes those. That's
I
okay.
freaking love bookmarks. It's one of my favorite
Oh
things
my
to buy.
gosh. Yeah,
All right.
this book is. I don't
Speaking
know.
of which, we're gonna be releasing at some point when Andrew figures out how to do it metal bookmarks. So keep an eye out for that.
Oh my gosh, yeah, if we can, I don't know.
All right.
But yeah, this book for me, I think, is better than Lord of the Rings. I know that's sacrilege to a lot of people. It's just, it's so clear and concise as a story that I love this story a lot, and I would go back and read it again and again.
Mm-hmm. And I do.
Yeah, it's. I mean, compared to Chronicles of Narnia, for example, I've read this like twice as many times.
Mm-hmm.
So,
I have to say, after reading this, I am excited to finally go back through and read Lord of the Rings,
you
and
say
hopefully, I
that
won't be
until
hopefully I won't be disappointed in Lord of the Rings versus The Hobbit.
you say that now, and then you're gonna be in the second half of Two Towers, and you're like,
I want
Killing
to
me.
find a version of
Honestly,
the Two
the
Towers
Fellowship
that
was
has-
harder for me to get through just because there's so many weird things going on. They have the Barrow Whites, which aren't explained. You have Tom Bombadil, which isn't explained.
okay, I love the Fellowship because it shows a bunch of things that he's still playing with his concepts,
Mhm.
but he never got around to actually expanding them further. And we've discussed it before. Tom Bombadil is clearly the god of the hobbits.
clearly.
Yes.
His entire
What is his
persona,
wife's name?
I forget, but
Golden Leaf or something.
his entire persona is just the exact same as the Hobbits.
Yeah.
It's just like show up, don't really care about anything too major. Life's a joke.
Can we talk about the trees that try to eat the hobbits?
There's that too, yeah. I mean, there's a lot of weird stuff in Lord of the Rings that's never wrapped up with a bow in any capacity. And I think that's the part about The Hobbit that's great, is that everything is wrapped up at the end.
Yeah,
it's a children's book.
The Hobbit has a nice wrap up to the end of it, and even if Bilbo never appeared back in the series, nobody would feel like he had to come back for any reason in particular, other than
except for the ring.
Right? No, that's what I'm saying. Like, if you didn't read any other books, you wouldn't feel like Bilbo needs to come back. Does that make sense? It's all wrapped up. There's no reason that you were like, oh, I wish they would do this with Bilbo. No, Bilbo is handled.
This is not even remotely the same genre or book style, but the first Dune book wraps itself up very nicely. And you don't really see like where they would go next, but then it's like your mind's kind of blown with how he does it. I kind of feel the same way with the Lord of the Rings. Because if you didn't see the movies or anything like that, and you just read The Hobbit, you would not at all expect what the hell happens in the next 3 books.
I mean, let's be honest. The Hobbit seems a bit cheerful of a story.
Yes,
it's a much more happy story than the other one.
As long as you ignore the movies, my goodness.
Yeah, I mean,
9 hours of The Hobbit is about 7 hours
I
too
love
long.
them. I went back and rewatched them after seeing The Rings of Power, and they're great.
Well, they're way better.
Yeah, compared to Rings of Power, man.
You got the sequel trilogy eyes now. The problem
I will
is
never complain again.
Yeah.
See, I don't blame Peter Jackson for what happened with The Hobbit at all.
No. Well, he was the original director. It was Guillermo del Toro.
I know.
He directed or had most of it done.
The only problem I have, and I can forgive it, okay? I got multiple problems. The one I can forgive is that they added the orc in there to make him more of a persistent enemy so that he doesn't just show up randomly at the very end.
Well, is he technically a goblin, though, or not?
They're the same thing.
It's the same thing.
It's two different words.
Okay.
So that's why it gets annoying, because they're called orcs in Lord of the Rings more than goblins. The thing is, I can accept
because there's a distinct difference between goblins in Lord of the Rings and goblins in The Hobbit.
Slightly.
Dude, the goblins in the mountain are not the same thing as orcs.
They're more the smaller ones are called goblins, but they're still orcs.
There's no differentiation. It's actually one of those weird things with his lore. Because there's also orc men and goblin men, and no one knows, are those the same thing?
It's interchangeable. It
is interchangeable.
But whenever goblins is used, the film directors always took a chance to make them like a little bit more smaller, wiry type people versus the bigger, beefier ones.
Yeah, they went off of D&D lore.
Yeah, and then when you add that orc in there, it can make sense. I like though that they added Gandalf's necromancer stuff because it's worth putting it in there. And then the part that I just can't get over is the addition of the needless love story between an elf and the dwarf. And then also the fact that they ride billy goats and pigs and stuff. It's like, why is this in here? What was the reason to do this except to try to sell plush toys to children?
Except he wasn't doing that.
Well, no, but what was the point of adding the goats? Like, I don't get it.
The thing is, like, there's parts of it where it's clear they wanted to make a more children's story, and then
you already have eagles, man, that talk.
Yeah.
So I'm not gonna lie, in my head, I kept thinking the Bjorn part was gonna be Tom Bombadil, and then I remembered Bjorn. I was like, oh yeah, Bjorn, the bear dude.
Yeah.
I kept, for whatever reason in my head, I kept thinking that Bjorn was gonna be Tom Bombadil, and then when we got there, I was like, oh yeah,
similar vibe,
the bear dude.
Similar vibe. He actually kind of copies his Bjorn interaction a little bit for Tom Bombadil.
I know, that's why I was so dead set it was.
Besides the fact Tom Bombadil can make the ring disappear and reappear. It's like, what the is going on?
I know. That's why he's the god of the hobbits.
Yeah, a little bit.
He's so powerful of not giving a crap.
I still think that's got to be a Yuvatar watching over the hobbits. That has to be who that is.
Andrew's just like, I don't know.
I don't know,
Yeah.
but he seems like the god of the hobbits to me, and that's what he'll always be known for going forth.
It'd be great if there was a letter out there somewhere explaining Tom Bombadil.
That's the problem.
It's the toy of my child.
That's the problem. He's the one unexplained character in my Tolkien.
Without some explanation,
Without any
Literally
explanation, he's just there. I don't know. The fact that he vibes so well with the hobbits, I think, is all the explanation we need.
What's the worst part of the Hobbit?
Well, for you, Chris, it's Rivendell, clearly.
It absolutely is Rivendell. Like, the only reason that they need that is to explain the translation. You're telling me Gandalf in all his years can't speak that frickin' language?
No, it wasn't. That wasn't the translation.
Or
It's
the
just they
runes or
showed
whatever.
him it, and they saw it because they happened to be looking at it at the right time. No, he needed it to find to have a guide of where is safe in the mountains. He hadn't traveled it himself for so long.
I'm sorry, but if Gandalf is a direct creation of Iluvatar, why the hell does he need that? It doesn't make any sense to me.
What do you mean?
It just doesn't. It doesn't vibe with me that he wouldn't know these answers.
He doesn't have all the answers, man. He's not all knowing. That's only Iluvatar.
Well, then he's not your god figure, Andrew.
Well, I just said he's doing God. He's like.
I'm just messing with
he's
you.
I'm
messing with you,
God.
Andrew. It's all good. No, Rivendell's my least favorite part. It's just annoying. That and then when they're looking for the entrance to the mountain, it's like, okay, that's
not so bad.
I don't like the part where Bard kills the dragon and not one of the dwarves.
That didn't bother me at all.
I wanted them to do it.
I didn't care if they did it or not.
It's anticlimactic.
It's meant to be anticlimactic, right? Because you're using everything under the sun to accomplish the goal, and it also helps to flesh out Thorin later on with his whole "I'm not giving you the gold, it's my gold."
Okay, that's fair. It's to make the reader think he's unreasonable as can be. I agree with you, Chris, that Rivendell's the most annoying because I think the elves' songs suck.
Yeah, but I feel like we might only think that because we know what they become, and it's just very different.
No, but their songs do suck. They're gibberish.
They do. I mean, I hate when songs are in a book in general, so...
You can skip every song in The Hobbit and lose almost no context.
But the dwarf songs are fun, so...
Well, they are. I'm not disagreeing with you. They're fun. And like the Addercop song. Like, what the... like, this is the first thing you could think of.
We should wrap this up though with a rating of what we think of this. So, who wants to go first?
10 out of 10.
We're out of 5.
6 out of 10.
6 out of 10.
No, I'll do a 5 out of 5. I really enjoy this book. As a kid, this was my favorite book. And as an adult, you guys have been pointing out, there's a lot of themes that you really pick up as an adult. It still speaks to me to this day. I still enjoy it. I like the consistent story beats. I don't think there's really a part that drags. And even in Rivendell, it's so short that it doesn't overstay.
It doesn't ruin the book. It was just boring. That's all.
Yeah.
I would say a 5 out of 5 for me. This is probably one of those like, I think everybody should probably just read this book.
Yeah, 5 out of 5 for me too. I really do enjoy this one on the same level as like The Horse and His Boy and stuff. It's one of those that you want to go back and reread because it's just wholesome as far as the story goes.
Yeah, and very few books are written at that scale for kids.
Yeah, I mean, at the time that you would read this, it scratches every single itch you have for a book.
And it does keep it never feels obvious either, which is nice too.
Maybe a little when you reread it, obviously.
Well, I mean, there's clues. I'm just saying, like it's not so obvious that it's like really.
I mean, as far as a first time read goes, it's probably one of the more exciting books you'll ever read.
It's fun. Everything's new. The first time you read it, everything's new.
And I think that's the power of this book. Is the first time you read it, it is really a magical book. The story is just pure magic. And I think that's what draws people to want to reread it. And it's still enjoyable as a reread. It might not have the same level of magic draw to it, but that first time reading it will always carry it for you. So that's why it's a 5 out of 5.
Agreed.
But I think we've said that enough.
Is there anything left in the tank for you guys on this book?
Not on this book, no.
All right. Well, you're going to have to wait a little while. We'll get back to Tolkien here in a few weeks. Unless you guys really like this, then maybe we'll dive into Lord of the Rings early. Who knows?
I mean, if we delve into Lord of the Rings early, we'd have to postpone your favorite C.S. Lewis.
I'm just saying, if
series.
this one performs well, I would consider postponing that. We'll see how it goes.
Whoa. Okay.
Wow. Okay.
That's difficult for Chris.
Listen,
didn't
I
think
could
you
probably
would.
gush on Paralandra for a solid 2 hours. So there's that. But all right. As always, I'm Chris.
And I'm Will.
And I'm Andrew.
And we'll see you
On the next Printed Depressed.
Bye,
See
guys.
you all later.